want to touch on the Memphis Grizzlies. They're a team who are flying very high right now. Absolutely, I think in contention for that 1 seed alongside Denver. I think that in the regular season, they're just built so difficult to beat on just a nightly basis. They can just run and gun on you basically all day. But obviously, their defensive metrics at the moment are just off the charts good. I'm just going to start with a really simple question, RC. What is this team's ceiling this year, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I have a futures on them to win the West. I know they're built like you just said. They're built to be a regular season team to win games. That they have a lot of depth, right? They even showed last season when Ja was out for a period of time, they were able to get these W's without him, and it has been no different this season with injuries and things like that. But for the most part, I know you're going to bring up Jaren Jackson later. He's a part of this team coming back from injury. They've gotten, what is it, like 11, 12 wins in a row now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of it has to deal with them just being healthy and being able to put their chemistry together. One thing that I've noticed in just the past years is Coach Taylor Jenkins, man. I feel like him and his staff are one of the best in the league as far as prepping their team for the matchup they have in front of them. And they utilize, I think he does a really good job pulling the best out of his players. Like, you put Brandon Clark somewhere else on a different team, you put Conchar on someone else's team. Like, are they going to be able to produce at the level, that they are with this team? I don't know. I think he just does a really good job of coaching these guys up for each matchup. And not only that, like you can see even the minutes are spread from game to game because he knows who to put in specific matchups. I just think they're just a really good team in general. How they prep for games, regular season team for now. I think they need a little bit more experience to get deeper into the playoffs. But that depth is something to deal with, and not a lot of people can.
I think touching on the depth is really good because when it comes to playoffs, I mean, you're normally only going 8 deep into your rotation anyway, but it just gives them that flexibility, like you said, to be really matchup dependent, where they can switch out guys and play guys that can maximize the advantages that they have against certain teams. My 2 cents on the Grizzlies is I think that there's a pretty firm ceiling on them being conference finalists at best this season. I think the future is super bright in Memphis. But I think this season, unless something drastic happens in the trade market, which I don't think it will, because then I don't see them being particularly active in that regard, because I don't think they want to be giving up too much. But I just have questions on, are they going to be able to be effective in a playoff environment where the entire game is essentially going to be played in the half court? Now, this team's transition offense is as good as anyone in the league. And their ability to turn defense into offense is what makes them so hard to play against. But looking at the past couple of seasons, I mean, so last season, they finished 4th in points per 100 possessions in the regular season, 116 points per game almost. I think it was 115.8 exactly. They were the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the league, which is what you get when you have Steven Adams, someone that's just capable of creating so many second chance scoring opportunities, which is huge for this team. But they ranked 22nd in points per play in half court sets. And that, I think, really hurt them. And we saw a team like the Warriors, who have that experience. They have a coach who's capable of scheming for games in game and from game to game in that environment where they can just shut down your offense in the half court. And that's my concern for this team. Looking at them this season, again, 5th in points per 100 possessions, bumped up to 116.7 so far this season. Again, 2nd in offensive rebounding percentage, but again, 22nd in points per play in half court sets. So they're still coming undone in those certain situations. I don't know if they have the pieces right now to better that, just because they don't seem to really have knockdown shooters, catch and shoot guys. Desmond Bane is a terrific 3-point shooter, but that's it. I don't know if you can really rely on anyone else to be a pure catch and shoot guy on the perimeter where, if Jars drive into the bucket, the defense is collapsing, or, they're trying to blitz him, get the ball out of his hands. They don't have guys that they can kick to out there that they can reliably count on to score at a high enough clip that defenses have to respect them and stick to them, which then, allows Ja to sort of find the mismatches, get the switches he wants, and attack aggressively accordingly. So I still have concerns on their half-court offense and whether they can execute in the playoffs in that environment as a result of that. And so far this regular season, we haven't really seen, like I said, they're still 22nd in half-court points per possession so far this season. Whereas obviously, you look at their transition offense last year, first in frequency of transition points, second in points per possession in transition offense. So far this season, again, fourth in frequency and fourth in points per possession in transition. So, and it all comes in, like I said, that ability to turn defense into offense is just unrivaled. They get stops, they run, they score in transition, they get back, and they make it difficult for you because their half-court defense is elite so long as Jaren Jackson Jr. is there. Do you think that they're active going into this trade deadline in terms of trying to find shooters that can space the floor for them? Or do you think that they're just going to run it back, give these young guys another chance, more reps under their belt, more playoff experience, and then in the offseason, potentially look at retooling the roster from there?
That's a tough call. I think there's a balance between, I think one thing is sure is Jaren Jackson is an elite defender that impacts the game at a whole nother level. And if we go into the playoffs where he somehow, hopefully it doesn't happen, but if he gets injured or teams attack him and he gets into early foul trouble, they're focusing on trying to find someone that could actually help play if it happens. Or because I think there's some trust with his guys that they have now. Or something. And also Josh, he isn't hitting his there, so I'm trying to get a respect three, but he's not. Sometimes he'll get hot on some days, and some days he'll just be like 6 or something. I think it's more to come.
I think I cut out that last minute there. I don't know what's going on. You've gone like full robot voice. I think the one point that definitely stands out, not just in terms of obviously Jaren Jackson Jr.'s defense, but like you said, he still needs to get better at not fouling, right? When he gets into foul trouble, it changes everything for this team. Obviously, they're so dependent on what he does at that end of the floor that having him out completely impacts the game in a way that I don't think that they can recover in a playoff situation or environment. Because if he sits for a significant period of time, teams are able to score enough. And once you put scoreboard pressure on this Memphis team, like I said, that's when I have my concerns about them because of their inability to reliably score in the half court. So Jaren Jackson Jr., his defensive player of the year candidacy for me is already done and dusted. I don't think he has to do anything else to win that award this season except stay on the floor. Like for me, it's that simple. He's only playing 26 minutes a night. He doesn't need to play more because they freaking blow teams out by 30 points. So he can go to the bench and not even have to play the fourth quarter most nights. But this Memphis team to start the season was 28th in defensive rating, 29th in opponent half-court defense in terms of points per possession allowed in the half-court, sorry. He has come back and they are number one in both categories. That might be the biggest swing I've seen from a defensive player to have that level of impact on a team's defense in recent memory. Opponents are, minus 8.8 points per 100 possessions worse when he's on the floor. Minus 6% effective field goal percentage when he's on the floor. 99th percentile, both of those, which is just absolutely off the charts good. So I think looking at that market just really quickly, minus 165, so $1.60 most places, extremely short odds. But I think there might still be value on there because I don't see a world where anyone is having that level of impact on the floor to take this award off him. Like I said, unless he gets injured for a significant period of time. Is that right?
It makes sense to me. I feel like the thing is, if you haven't gotten it already, I know you say there's still some value, but do you want to have money sitting, they're sitting there until the end of the year at minus, at the odds it is now, when you could have got it at plus money, just, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's the problem there. Yeah, I think I would say it's still not bad. Minus 160. If you're able to stay, I'm gonna leave some money on the table for a couple months here until I get. There really is nobody out there that I could speak that could be.
Well, I mean, second favorite in that market is Brook Lopez, and I don't think he should be in the conversation, to be perfectly honest. I know he started the season ridiculous, and he's like, you look at some of his advanced metrics, and they read fantastically well. But then you watch him in matchups where teams are able to sort of attack him off the pick and roll, and he's playing that drop coverage, and it's not pretty. Like when the Celtics played them, Brown and Tatum were basically just driving straight past him. They get him out on the perimeter one-on-one, and it's just a blow by. Jaren Jackson Jr. is capable of sticking with anyone. I'd actually argue the best value in that market is probably Nick Claxton. You can get him at $10, so yeah, plus 1,000 odds. I think that's probably the best value. The guys, up there leading or alongside, alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. in terms of blocks per 36 minutes, his impact at that end of the floor. The only thing that might hurt him is the fact that they could go on this massive skid now that Kevin Durant is out. And that record won't look quite so great at the end of the season. But from a value perspective, that would be the only way I look at it. Jaren Jackson Jr., like I said, his defensive metrics are off the chart. Quickly, before we move on from the Grizzlies, I want to ask you about one guy who obviously splits opinions, I think, depending on who you talk to. A player that I personally can't stand, but also I look at his numbers and I'm like, is he really that good? Dillon Brooks. Is he good? Is he not good? I can't wrap my head around it. He's offensively terrible, but yet his offensive numbers are good. It makes no sense to me at all. His defense is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. He can defend your best guy on any given night. And him alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. defensively in half-court sets, it's hell for everyone. But what's your thoughts on Dillon Brooks? Is he good? Does he have a future in Memphis? And do they need him long-term?
I think so. Two things. Defensively, you bring up a good point. I think his passion for the game, you can see his passion when he plays. He brings a lot to the table as far as defense, his physicality and passion. Offensively, I think the reason why I agree with you, I'm not a big fan of his play offensively, and I think it has to do with the way his body moves, the way he shoots his shots. It's not a normal. I feel like it's normal. And to me, it just looks. It's not a to look at. When you play basketball, you watch basketball, you see John Morant. That shit is pretty. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at Dillon Brooks, it's just ugly basketball that works. He's that guy from LA Fitness. You know, like to me, that's what it looks like. And like, damn, how does that ball go in? He got the ugly jumper. That's just what it is to me. I think that's probably what I feel like. It's just not pretty basketball to look at, but it works. And for him, that's sustainable
though. Like, it's so ugly to the point where I'm like, it's got to, like, every time it goes in, it feels like pure luck. And I think that there's got to be some level of regression coming for him on that end of the floor. But yeah, really quickly, Matt asked in the chat, Taylor Jenkins, Coach of the Year. I think that's a great shout, because this award almost feels like it's so often given a year too late. We saw it with Monty Williams. I think he should have won it his first season. They gave it to him the season after. Taylor Jenkins, I think, absolutely was deserving last year because of the jump that Memphis made. Didn't get it. If they finish a top 2 seed this year, they probably give it to him as a body of work for the last 2 seasons as opposed to just this year. What are your thoughts on Taylor Jenkins, Coach of the Year odds? I think that might be a really, really good look.
Yeah, I actually looked to him last year as well. It makes a lot of sense. And if we see Jokic, continue to be hurt and be out, and the Grizzlies end up winning the Western Conference regular season, I mean, that's a good shot. They're in position to be able to do it, and they have the depth for a season-long chance as well. So I can't talk anybody off of that.
Yeah, and just touching now with the Willie Green Coach of the Year question, again, I think it's the same thing. I think next year will probably be the year that he gets it, just because obviously they're dealing with a ton of injuries right now. They could still finish a top 4 seed, but next year, if they keep everyone together and they have a fully healthy Zion and Brandon Ingram for the large majority, and they're the team that's sort of top 2 in the West and make another jump forward, I think that's when Willie Green gets it. And again, it's like it's almost a reward for a body of work over 2 or 3 seasons where, we saw them finish so strong at the back end of last season. We saw them follow it up this season when fully healthy. They were a top 2 team in the West. They've obviously fallen off a bit now. And then next season, if they make another jump where they are basically almost the benchmark of the Western Conference, I think that's when Willie Green gets it. It's become that award where for coaches, it's a body of work as opposed to just what have you done over the course of this season, which technically is what the award should be, but it doesn't seem to pan out that way. So yeah, I agree with Matt. I think I might even look into some Taylor Jenkins Coach of the Year awards because I just think that they are going to run through this regular season and they're going to just keep beating teams down. There is no such thing as a bad spot, it seems, for this team just because of the depth that they're able to run out. Their guys don't have to play large minutes every night. They're literally the anti-New York Knicks and Toronto Raptors, where their starters have to play freaking 42 minutes a night because they have coaches that refuse to have any trust in their rotation players whatsoever. These guys can play 26 minutes a night most nights, sit out a whole fourth quarter because they're already up by double digits. And yeah, run away with things. So I like that look a lot. That might be the best look for me for Coach of the Year. For Defensive Player of the Year, Jaren Jackson Jr., like I said, has that award as sewn up as you can have, I think, at this point in time, unless he somehow goes down for a few months, which is possible as well, given his injury history. So that's probably the one reason why I would say don't even bother laying that price with him at this point, because he does have an injury history that is probably concerning for you if you want to try and tie up money long term on something that is as short priced as that.